All right, live again. Like, subscribe, post a comment, tell your friends about me. Subscribe if you haven't already, please. I need 1,000 subscribers. And then I can start making 1 cent a day in ad revenue, which will completely change my life, okay? So I'd really appreciate it if you told all your friends about me. And bought my freaking book, Whatever way I can make money off you, I'll do it, all right? So I have another question, and this is from a comment on one of my videos. And this guy is named, we'll call him Mr. F. It's a YouTube channel, so I don't even know his real name, but we can keep his YouTube channel anonymous too. And he says, which retirement vehicle is your favorite? The 401k, the Roth IRA, or the HSA, which is a health savings account? I'm following all three, or I guess you're using all three, but wondering which one you think is better and why. And that was it. Well, in my personal opinion, I'm not a huge fan of the HSA. And it's not because it doesn't have bad or good tax benefits. It actually has amazing tax benefits. And if you don't know what an HSA is, it's basically an account that gives you tax advantages for medical expenses. So you actually get a tax deduction, like an upfront tax deduction when you contribute to this account up to IRS limits, which I think are about $3,600 per person and $7,200 for a family. The money grows tax deferred. And then if you have any like legitimate medical expenses, you can actually charge those expenses to your accounts, to your HSA, and the money comes out tax-free. So if you use it for qualified medical expenses, you get a tax deduction up front, you get a tax-free growth, and when you take it out to pay for those medical expenses, then you don't have to pay taxes on the withdrawal either. So it actually has a triple tax benefit when it comes to like paying for some medical expenses. But if you have one, I'm not your expert on your freaking HSA plan. So if you don't know what a qualifying medical expense is, you should ask your employer or whoever gives it to you. Now, the other good thing about the HSA is that once you reach age 65, then you could actually take money out of it like an IRA. So even if you don't have any medical expenses, which you probably will when you're older, but if you don't, at age 65 and beyond, you can actually start taking money out of it, and you'll pay taxes on that. It'll be like ordinary income, but you're not going to get any kind of penalty. Because there's a penalty that applies to it if you take it out before 65, but it's not for medical expenses. So it's kind of confusing, but think of it as like a tax advantage health account. And then when you're 65, it's basically like an IRA. Now, it's also good because as you get older, you're going to have more medical expenses. So when you're young, you're theoretically healthy. You're not spending as much on medical care. So if you open an HSA, you can start building a nice big balance on that by maxing it out every year. And then when you're older, you have this nice, huge balance. And if you need medical care, like long-term care or whatever, you can take that money out and you have a huge supply of money built up specifically for medical expenses. So it's a pretty good account. But when it comes to retirement, there's a couple issues that I have with it. And the main one is that you can't touch it till you're 65. And if you do touch it and you pull it out after 65 and it's not for a medical expense, you're still paying ordinary income tax rates. And I don't know what tax rates are going to be in the future, but I think they're going to be higher just based on our government's policies. So that's kind of my main issue with HSAs. They're not bad. I don't hate them, but I don't use them. I actually don't even have like a high deductible healthcare plan because you need to actually have a high deductible healthcare plan to qualify for an HSA. It has to meet some requirements. So I personally don't have an HSA. I have like a low or no deductible healthcare plan. I just use like co-pays and whatever because, maybe I'll have some high medical expenses. Because if you have an HSA and you have a high deductible healthcare plan, well, what if you're young and you have like unexpected medical expenses? Well, you're going to have to reach into that HSA, which has amazing tax benefits. You have to pull the money out to pay for current care. You don't really know. So while it is a possible retirement vehicle, it's not the ideal one. I personally prefer just to have a better healthcare plan with no deductibles. And then if I have medical expenses, well, I pay a small copay. Oh, end of the world. And I pay slightly higher premiums. But I don't have to pay freaking deductibles whenever I get healthcare. So the HSA is like in the bottom for retirement. Now, my favorite is the Roth IRA. And the main reason I like it is because you can control a lot more than you can in your 401k. Now, your 401k is offered by your employer. Your IRA is yours. It has lower contribution limits, but you can open it up wherever you want. Now, in the 401k, you're limited to the number of investments that you can buy because your employer is offering you the 401k. So whatever investments they are contracted with, Those are the only investments that you can invest in. Like I have the thrift savings plan, and they have like 4 index funds in there that are great, but they actually don't have any emerging market options inside the TSP. So I prefer to own the entire world, but I'm limited to what I can own because my 401k, my TSP limits what I can invest in. So that's why a 401k is great, but I like the Roth IRA because I have a Roth IRA at Fidelity. I can buy whatever I want, and I don't have to worry. I don't have to worry about what my plan is limiting me on. So number one is the Roth IRA. I pay taxes up front. I'm in a low tax bracket. I put the money in. I buy whatever I want, and when I take it out at 59 and a half, I don't have to pay any taxes on it. And you also have flexibility with withdrawals before you're 59 and a half. Like you can take out contributions, you have to pay a penalty on gains, but you can take out contributions after you meet certain requirements before you're 59 and a half. So the Roth IRA has a lot of flexibility. There's no taxes on the back end, which I think is good, especially in the kind of environment we're at. And you have a lot more flexibility in your investments. So it's pretty good. So the Roth IRA, then the 401k, if you have one. The 401k, you should at least get the match that your company offers and then max your Roth IRA. And then on top of that, your company might even offer a Roth 401k, which I also use with the TSP. And you can contribute $19,500 to it. And then last is the HSA. Yeah, it's got tax benefits, but I don't want to be in a high deductible healthcare plan, especially if you have like a wife and maybe kids and you don't know what's going to happen. And if you have one big medical emergency, you're going to have to maybe pull out a ton of money from that HSA that you thought you were using for retirement and instead use that on medical bills. So the HSA is not bad. If you're maxing everything else and you're not worried that you're going to have health problems and you want to take a little gamble and you want to use a high deductible health plan, yeah, you can contribute to your HSA, but I personally don't use it. So that's my thoughts on that. IRA, number one, 401k or TSP, number two, HSA, number three. That's my personal preference. You take it, and if you like it, great. If you don't, oh well. But still like, subscribe, comment, share this video to all your buddies, and email me any questions, all right? I got one more video, and then I'm done for the day. Choose.